Good morning. Can I help you?
Hello, yes, maybe you can. I need to change my mobile. The one I'm using is about 10 years old now.
Okay.
But things have changed a lot since I bought this one. It's all rather confusing.
Okay, well, basically, there are two things you need to consider: the plan which suits you best and the phone itself.
Well, actually, I looked at it the other way. I think I've already decided which phone I like.
Oh, well, okay then. So, which one is it?
The AY310.
The AY310. That is the most popular phone these days. It's very cool, isn't it?
I'm not sure if it's cool, but I really like the large screen.
Right. Well, if you choose that phone, you have a choice of two plans.
Only two plans?
Yeah, standard and premium.
Okay, so what's the difference?
With the standard plan, you get 120 free texts a month and free unlimited calls to 5 friends or family members.
Okay, and how much is that one?
So that's $24.99 a month.
Okay, and the premium?
With the premium, you get 260 free texts a month.
Wow, more than double.
Yes, and also you get free unlimited calls to 10 friends or family members.
So that is double.
Yeah.
And is the price double too?
Not at all. The monthly price for the premium is just $36.99. So it's a bit of a bargain, really. So, you'd like to go for the premium?
Yes, please.
Right then. If you'd just like to take a seat over there, we'll sort out the paperwork. First of all, I need your name, of course.
Anne Gleason Delway.
Okay. Could you spell your surname for me, please?
That's Gleason, Gleason, hyphen, Delway, Dellway.
Sorry, is that G-L-E-E?
Glea,
And is that Anne with an E or without?
without.
Right. And your address, please.
176 Beach Road, Moston.
Okay, again, sorry, is that Beach double E?
No, Bea.
Okay. And do you have a landline number?
Yes, we do. It's 0672 387 8352.
0672 387 8352.
That's it.
And how would you like to settle your bill each month? You can call in at any of our branches, or you can post a cheque, or what most people do is set up a direct debit from your bank.
Yes, I'll do that. You'll give me your bank details, will you?
Actually, they're inside the pack, so as long as you set it up with your bank before the 14th of this month, everything should be okay.
Okay, I see.
That's right, and you can extend that to 3 or 5 years. It's not a bad idea because it doesn't cost much, but if you drop your phone, for example, and it's not under warranty, it'll be expensive to replace.
Right. Well, I think 5 years might be a bit much. I'll probably buy a new phone before then.
Well, you did keep the last one for 10 years.
That's true, but I think the 3-year option is probably enough.
Okay, then.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This evening I'm going to present to you a rather remarkable device that could have a very bright future, help the disabled, and save us all a lot of typing. How convenient would it be if we could control our computer or smartphone by using simple tongue movements? Well, it might not be for everyone, but a gadget that does just that, it seems, is just around the corner. How on earth would it work? Well, the device actually detects ear pressure changes, and from these changes in pressure, the device can understand how a person is moving their tongue. So tongue movements can be detected indirectly by pressure changes, and these changes can trigger required actions. The inventors of the device are two engineers, Ravi Vaidyanathan and Lalit Gupta, both of Southern Illinois University in the States. The two of them suspected that tongue movements could be detected using ear pressure because of the way the eustachian tube connects the middle ear to the back of the mouth. So they carried out some research to test their hypothesis and in a relatively short period of time they were able to validate their idea. In fact, they are now at the stage where they can identify different tongue movements with 97% accuracy. In the initial tests, 8 people were asked to perform 4 basic tongue movements, up, down, left and right, 100 times each. You can imagine that's quite exhausting work. But anyway, while making these gestures, they wore a custom earplug, an earplug containing a microphone pointing into the ear. This microphone can pick up subtle pressure changes inside the ear caused by the tongue forcing air around, like when a person blows on a microphone. Each movement creates a distinctive signal, and these signals can be passed on to a computer. The first possible application for the device the investors cite is to help people who are extremely restricted in their movements, disabled people who are confined to a wheelchair. A US company called Thinkamove plans to release a wheelchair that can be controlled using the device towards the end of next year. Thinkamove has refined its wheelchair control system to cope with swallows and coughs, although users must train it to recognise their tongue movements the first time they use it. And the company's wheelchair will be primarily aimed at quadriplegics, so people who are unable to use their arms or legs, and who must currently use steering devices that go inside their mouth and are operated by sucking and blowing. One of the main problems with this kind of device, however, is the hygiene and irritation problems they cause. The new device avoids this kind of problem, and a further advantage with the new device is that, again, according to its inventors, it is much less intrusive than other devices, so it doesn't get in the way so much. There seems little doubt now that the system could significantly improve quality of life for quadriplegic users, although its full usefulness will only be known after long-term tests. There is still considerable work to be done to see how accurately the device works in all kinds of real-world situations. These benefits that the device will probably bring to the disabled represent only a small number of the device applications, or at least that's what the inventors are hoping. They are claiming that it could prove useful in many other areas as well. Recently, Vaidyanathan expressed his optimism about the device being used to keep a user's hands free, so it might be useful for firefighters, for example, or for soldiers. What seems to be holding back progress in this area, however, are the complications associated with detecting tongue movements when a person is active. Apparently, when we are running or moving around, the bones of our skull simply make too much noise. This means that before the device can be used more widely, improvements to the design of the earplug and the mathematical signal processing needs to be made.
Thanks to all of you for coming. We're going to look at the development of the tennis racket over the last 50 years. Let's start by reminding ourselves of how tennis rackets were at the beginning of the period. Here's an example. This is the Dunlop Max Ply Fort, one of the leading rackets, if not the market leader, at the time.
Ooh, looks small and heavy.
Well, that's right, it is. Compared to modern rackets, the average weight of these wooden rackets is between 12 and 14 ounces, and the head size was around 65 square inches. I'll just pass it around to you. The design you're looking at is one of the more advanced rackets of its time. If you look closely at the frame, you can see that it is in fact laminated, made up of thin layers of wood glued together. But even this later design was still quite difficult to move around, as you can see. Please be careful, and it also lacked power.
So how long did these rackets usually last?
Well, you wouldn't expect to get much more than 3 months out of it.
I see.
The next change came around 1967 with the introduction of the steel-framed racket. This one I have here is the Wilson T2000, and this was also extremely popular, made more so perhaps by the famous Jimmy Connors in the 1970s. I'll pass this one around too. You'll notice how it's slightly longer than the wooden racket. The head size, however, is not very different, but it is of course a little lighter than its predecessor. The next development was the oversized racket. This was introduced about 6 years later. This one is the Prince Pro, again a top seller. You can see the head is larger, and as we pass it around, you can see that it is again lighter than the steel racket due to its aluminum alloy frame.
So how much bigger is the string area on that racket?
Well, considerably, about 50% larger than the wooden racket. And that, along with the considerably lighter frame, additional power, and huge sweet spot, the area which produces the perfect hit, all created a lot of interest and excitement. Unfortunately, there were several drawbacks to this kind of racket. Advanced players found the racket behaved unpredictably. It seems that the aluminum frame would sometimes momentarily distort, sending the ball off in a completely unintended direction. What advanced players seemed to require was a stiffer frame, and the best material proved to be a mixture of carbon fibers and plastic resin to hold them together. So by the mid-1980s, steel frames were losing out to carbon fiber frames, and the only value of the wooden rackets was for collectors like myself. Okay, so let's turn our attention now to the racket face and specifically to string technology, which has witnessed just as many, if not more, advancements than the frames. The starting point for strings is to understand that there are two main types. Some people still use gut, which as you know is a natural product made from animal intestines, but most players now use strings from, say, synthetic fibers. And the technology is at the point that we can now build a range of different fibers into a single string to produce the desired string properties.
That sounds quite complicated. So there are now many different strings with quite different properties.
That's right. These properties can be, for example, added stiffness, or better control, or more resilience, just to name a few. If we take nylon, for instance, depending on its chemical compound, it's an almost do-anything material, so a fairly hard form can be used as a protective outer layer of a string, or a softer, stretchy form can be used in the core of a string to add power.
So are there a few common materials which are used by most players?
Well, yes indeed there are. In addition to nylon, which as I say can add a range of properties to a string, there are also aramids which are actually used as bulletproof vests. As you probably imagine, these are extremely durable and stiff, and can allow very high string tensions. So strings containing aramids will not stretch under tension as much as strings consisting mostly of nylon. So aramid strings offer more control to topspin players.
Are there any disadvantages with these aramid strings?
Well, there are not necessarily general advantages and disadvantages. What suits one player may not suit another. The aramid strings will deliver more control, as I say, to topspin players, but they will not deliver more power. So it depends on what the player is looking for. Now another material that you may be aware of is Zyx. Now Zyx is as resilient as aramids, but slightly more flexible, and also stiffer generally than nylons. The noticeable thing about Zyx, however, is its dynamic stiffness. That is how quickly it recovers from stretch. And Zyx recovers very quickly. This material is proving very popular because it offers an excellent combination of tight control and sufficient power. Now I have included a full list of synthetics and their properties in the handout, and I'll give it to you at the end. But before we finish, I'd just like to mention the final component in all of this, string design. Now, as I mentioned, a string will consist of an outer jacket and an inner core. But in addition, there are three main types of string designs. These are, first, monofilament cores, second, multifilament cores, and thirdly, composite cores. The monofilament cores consist of single thick nylon fibers or a few medium gauge nylon fibers chemically bonded together so they are, in effect, a single thick filament. The multifilament types are made from thousands of very thin fibers twisted together but not chemically bonded, so they are free to stretch independently from one another. Finally, the composite string design consists of a small number of relatively thick fibers twisted together but not chemically bonded.
Can I just ask one more
Okay,
question?
welcome everyone. So, screen technology. There have been many changes, many improvements. In this session this morning, we'll look at the most recent of these. And I don't think I can go any further without apologising for the quality of the screen you're looking at now. But I'm sure the university is already in the process of upgrading it. Anyway, okay, let's start. The first thing we need to mention is that the old CRT, the cathode ray tube screen, just in case you hadn't noticed, is well and truly dead. It was of course knocked off its position as top dog by the arrival of the LCD, or the liquid crystal display, a form of flat screen in the early to mid-70s, and slightly later by the plasma television. In some ways a slightly better quality version of the LCDs of that time. So, the bulky, inefficient CRTs were cut out of the market and consigned very much to the history books. Today, most people will probably own or be looking to own a high-definition television, or HD TV. The HD TV uses either LCD or plasma display technology, but with considerably enhanced quality, as the name implies, over the standard LCD and plasma TVs. Now, the cost of the HD TV has fallen dramatically over recent years to something like half its original market price, and the price, as we know, is now at mass market levels due to increased demand and cost savings in the manufacturing process. However, the display industry has not sat still in this time, and the next generation of screen technology is just about to change the world once more. So, no sooner have we all invested in our perfectly adequate, shiny new HD TV model when along comes something even more eye-catching. I am, of course, referring to 3D TV. For the past 3 years, there have been a number of digitally presented films and documentaries available to watch in full 3D at cinemas all around the globe, and the incredible box office power of new 3D films has led to the creation of home technology that is capable of playing back the same 3D images on a much smaller screen. This is where the 3D TVs come into their own. Every major manufacturer, including Samsung, Sony, LG and Panasonic, are going to be launching 3D TV from this year onwards, and, as with most new technology, the cost of entering the market is going to be passed on to the consumer. This is a well-established path, with early adopters bearing the brunt of the cost before the technology becomes more affordable as sales grow. So, how do the 3D TVs work? Well, they work in a number of different ways, but in principle, the technique behind the stereoscopic imagery is the same. Basically, the 3D effect is created when your left eye and your right eye can see slightly different images. These images need to be placed side by side and in a way that nearly mirrors the natural depth perception that we use in everyday life. In 3D displays, this is made possible by using a television with a very high refresh rate. The refresh rate is the rate that a TV screen can show first the left image and then the right image, one after the other in rapid succession. At the moment, the 3D TVs all require that a viewer wear a pair of glasses in order to stop the left eye seeing the image intended for the right eye. The cheapest glasses simply have polarized lenses, so the left eye cannot see the right eye's image because it is blocked out, and vice versa. The more expensive and arguably more impressive solution requires the wearing of active shutter glasses. These glasses must be synchronized using a sensor built into or placed above the screen. They can then block out the appropriate lens many times a second to get the 3D effect. We'll have a closer look at these different types at the end. Although the first wave of 3D TVs will all require glasses, there are other 3D technologies, including those being worked on by Sharp, which will not require any glasses at all. Instead, the alternate images will be shown on consecutive rows of pixels, tightly packed together on the screen and angled so that they are visible to the viewer's different eyes. Very clever stuff indeed. Right, now this technology is of limited use in the home because it means the 3D effect will only be visible if you sit in a precise spot. Perhaps not so clever, but it will first be trialled on the handheld market with certain portable gaming devices and some mobile phones which already plan to sport this glasses-free 3D technology. There is another new development on the way which I also need to mention. This second upcoming development in screen technology is called OLED, Organic Light Emitting Diode. This is already available on a number of high-end smartphones, but at the moment the creation of large-scale televisions is far too expensive to make a consumer launch worthwhile. However, many industry bodies believe that OLED is the real future of displays because, unlike LCD and plasma screens, it does not require any kind of backlighting, as each individual pixel is producing its own light and colour. This also means that OLED screens can be incredibly thin and even flexible. As such, we could see t-shirts, pamphlets and whole walls sporting OLED technology in the future. This puts the idea of portable TV on a completely different level.